Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Mindset Talk, where we try to get into the mind of a top producer in real estate and in business. Today, I'm very excited because I have someone here who's been at the top of the real estate sales business for 30 years. And the way he continues to adapt and grow his business year after year is something I've always admired from afar. And I've actually been lucky enough to visit him at his office, meet his team, and see firsthand the effort and strategy that he really puts into his business. So with all that being said, I'd like to welcome Greg Sisson from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Greg.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. There's a lot to cover, so kind of want to dive right in here.
Yep.
Would you take a minute to give us the cliff notes here of kind of your time in real estate?
Yeah. So, it seems like all my life. And the reason is my father was in real estate here in Myrtle Beach, started in the early 80s. I was born in 72. So at about 10, he got into real estate and I watched my father sell real estate and then become a real estate trainer. So really real estate was all I knew and all I thought I would ever do. So when I went to college, I finished in 94. Did a year and a half of playtime out west. And then when I came back in 96, I got into real estate and I haven't looked back since. So that's been, my only business that I've known or really job besides waiting tables has been real estate.
Wow, that's really cool. So how old were you after you came back in 96 when you started? What age about?
That was 25. So it's been, I'm 51 now. So this is my 26th year.
26 year. Good.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. And then just to give the audience a little background, what was your personal best in terms of transactions in a year?
Yeah, I mean, just when I was a solo agent, I think I probably peaked at about 160, 170 at the most with just by myself. I mean, I had two assistants when I was doing that. And then my wife and I organically, I'll say, grew into a team. I think it was about 2011, maybe 12. My wife started paying attention a little more in the business. We never worked together. Now we do. And then she was like, Greg, we're leaving money on the table. Cause I mean, everybody that's watching this probably knows most people doing many transactions is focusing on the listing side, which I was. And so we started to, with my coach, add buyer's agents, and we did it very organically. We did 2 at a time the first time. And then we started, spending a little bit of money for leads, a couple $100 a month, which was a ton of money back then. So it just slowly organically grew into where we are today. So, and then, from a company wise, the unicorn year last 2021, where everybody crushed it. We had our best year ever at 417 transactions as a company, with 8 agents plus myself. And we're tracking this year at about, it looks like we're going to land the plane about 350 in 2023, give or take.
Okay, amazing. So what I love about that is, you didn't just start a team to start a team. You were in the field, right? You were doing this at a very high level yourself before you started to add and grow the team. So that's great. So in terms of listings to buyer sales right now with you and the team, what's the ratio there, would you say, guesstimate?
Looking at I pulled that one up. Out of the 311 closings we have right now, 125 are listing sides, 186 are buy sides.
Okay.
So I think it's about 60-40 if you run the numbers. And I pretty much am the only one that's focused on listings. My agents focus on buyers, but they do organically take listings. I mean, the group will take 50 listings this year just kind of by accident because people don't know the difference between a listing agent and a buyer's agent. A client that my buyer's agent sells them a home automatically thinks, of course, that they can sell their home for them. So they do take at least that many listings per year, which is nice.
Okay. So then you're about 75 listings and then the team will be about 50 somewhere in that range?
As of right now. Okay. So I take about 2.5. I'll probably average about 2.5 to 3 listings taken a week. So yeah, I'll take about 120 listings a week, whatever that boils down to a year. And then they'll take the rest. So that's about right. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Now, how about the early years when you were at your peak solo, with just your admin team? What would you say, and I know this is a while ago, what would you say guesstimate your breakdown was there in terms of listings sold, versus buyer sales?
I mean, it was pretty much all listings. I mean, I probably would do 5 buyer sales a year if it was just a lucky. I really was that guy that didn't work with buyers, and I would take. I mean, my best years, I was taking 200, 220 listings a year. But there were a lot of years in the normal market, Rob, which a lot of people don't, maybe that are watching, weren't in the business before 2018, 19. And there was a lot of years when a normal market, you don't sell every listing you take. You wish you did. And now we're starting to see that again. But so I would take 220 listings to maybe sell 75, 80% of them a year in a normal market.
Yeah, because everything didn't sell. That's a really good point. So how is your market right now? Is your inventory still on the lower side? Have you gained volume at all? Tell us a little bit about that.
There's two sides of the coin to that question. There's single family homes, primary residences for the most part. And then there's our oceanfront, ocean view, what I call resort condo market. And It's really the tale of two different stories. If you start with our resort market, the condos that are oceanfront, ocean view, short-term weekly type rentals, that market is softening at a dramatic pace right now. We're at a 5-month supply of inventory.
Wow.
3 months ago, we had a 2.5-month supply. In March of 2022, a short 18 months ago, we had a 3-week supply of inventory. So you're seeing and that's fueled by interest rates, and that's also fueled by the insurance gap that just has the insurance gap in terms of what HOA is budgeted for and what is actually happening. So that's getting into the weeds. But so the condo market is softening. Single family home market, we have a 2.5-month supply, maybe as high as 3 months. And we're unique. I was telling you off camera, Rob, because our market is still filled with the national home builders. From that 275 to 450 to 500,000, you've got, Lennar, D.R. Horton, Beazer, Syntex, all the big nationals are here. They represent 50% of our total single family home inventory, and they're not stopping. So they're actually helping us dramatically have inventory to sell. But they're making it hard for our resale people to sell because they're offering so much of a value, and they're buying down interest rates. They're giving closing cost credit. So some people watching may be in a market where there's a lot of nationals. Some of you I know are in places where that's not there. So that's our market.
Awesome. That's helpful to understand. And it sounds like, if I'm understanding you right, this is more recently it started to soften. Fair to say?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was for us, the softening happened in June, July of 2022, when rates were kind of in the middle of the uptick. And then remember, in November of 22, they peaked around 7.25. And it was that fourth quarter was really rough in 22. So yeah, I mean, we started peaking. We kind of peaked in the summer of last year.
Okay. So it sounds like you're someone who's always, personally focused on the listing side. We've seen some softening recently in your market. If you go back to those years where it was tight, the 21, the first part of 22, what did you do to stay consistent with your listings when so many agents were struggling to find any?
I am very, very blessed, Robert, to have the experience, the years in the business. I mean, I think, having the past clients, the sphere, growing up here in Myrtle Beach, having 8 agents that also were making sales previous 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, 60% of our listings, let's say in 2021, Robert, because there weren't expired listings. I mean, it was all sphere, past clients.
Yep.
They were also, Robert, when you're dealing, I mean, in 2021, I don't have the numbers. I mean, we had 417 closings, so we probably had 225 buyer sales. So I'm thinking a lot of those people they were buying, but then they were selling oftentimes. So I can't give a lot of the listeners a lot of great, unique things we did. We just happened to be kind of a pretty good sized company that does a lot of business, that happened to attract a lot of people. And the listings were selling, without much effort in that time.
Sure. And that's fair. At the same time, I would say, your years and consistency in the business probably had something to do with that database you developed
Oh, for sure.
that then, that then helped you during that time. So it wasn't a lucky thing. It was something that you did consistently for years. Is that fair?
Oh, 100% true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I led with that. I mean, just having that database was critical, and being able to capture so many buyers. We wouldn't have been able to capture them without the database. So that was definitely instrumental, Rob. Yeah.
Cool. Now, how about the buyer agents on the team?
Yeah.
Was there struggles? Was there any period where they got frustrated because the inventory is so low and they had to get in all these multiple offers? Did you see a lot of that in your market?
Only daily were they frustrated. I mean, hourly. I mean, we do a huddle. Any team, I would challenge you, if you're a team leader, if you're part of a team, ask your team leader, do a daily huddle. It's a mastermind, whatever you want to call it, 15 minutes every morning, Robert. We get together and we talk about our positives, what's going really good, what are we up to today to move the business forward, and is there a challenge? Because if somebody's got a challenge, it implies or applies to everyone on the team. But yeah, I can remember back in 21. I mean, there were every day. I mean, multiple offers were getting. That was our market, just like most of the country. And I just told them, just keep writing offers. I mean, at least a lot of them didn't have perspective of what a normal market was, because several of them were newer or not in the business. So you pick your poison. I mean, agents will get mad or kind of frustrated when the market's tough, like now, or they'll get frustrated when the market's tough. Then the market's always tough. I mean, there's different things that make it tough, but I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a sweet spot somewhere, but it's probably only for about a week, and then it pendulum swings to one or the other, right?
Yeah, I love that. And it's something that I've talked about a lot with people in the industry like you. Is if we go back pre-COVID, the challenge was selling the listings, right? And checking in with our sellers, keeping them up to date and being the calming force for them, right? Yeah. And that was a challenge because everything didn't sell. Then COVID happens, everything sells, and now we're complaining we don't have enough listings, right? So I love what you said there. There's always a challenge. It's kind of, how we're going to attack that challenge or solve that problem to keep moving forward. So really, really good point. So I love the morning huddle. Anything else from a mindset perspective, and that sounds really powerful, that your agents did on the buy side, to keep their mindset strong in a tough time?
Back then, okay. I think just definitely staying connected to the group. I mean, it sounds like a shameless plug, but I really believe, and even when I was a solo agent, I was part of a company that was heavily trained. There was people you could talk to. I think the biggest mistake agents that are listening that can make is being that like on an island. Just because you're a solo agent doesn't mean you can't have people in your world that you can check in with, other agents, whether it's different markets or in your same market. You have to have that support. I heard someone say, when does someone need encouragement? Well, only if they're breathing. And so we all need encouragement. We all need support. And it's, just someone to say it's going to be okay. And I think just that, as silly, or kind of not silly, but as simple as that sounds, Robert, I think just being plugged in to like-minded people that are moving forward, because in any tough time, there's so much negativity that you have to just be able to shut that off and be around people that are doing what you're trying to do. And that's grow and be successful.
No, I love that. Environment matters so much. And like you said, today's day and age, more than ever, with all the negativity in the world, you really have to choose what you put in your head, or the bad stuff will get in. So that's a really, really good point. Okay. Let's go back to those early years now when you were a single agent. What helped you in the beginning get your business off the ground? You're a young 25, 26-year-old. You come back. I know you had your dad in the business. That must have been huge. What helped you gain momentum in the beginning of your career, where you really thought, well, you know what, I could do this. Like I'm getting the hang of this. I'm putting sales together. Tell me about that.
So my dad, one of the things I remember him saying, because he taught how to be successful in real estate, he said, one of the things I remember the most was he always said, listings are the name of the game. They always have been. They always will be. So I think going in new, I never was scared to take listing. In fact, that's all I did. So I was only focused on listings from day one. So if that's your mindset and that's your goal and you build a big inventory, you can be successful pretty quickly. So I think I never had a lot of times I think if you talk to successful agents, they have the same story where they started working and we have to have our buyers, and you can work buyers efficiently, but they talk about they're overworked. They're working 100 hours with buyers running around town, no life, no vacations. So I never had that duality or that challenge. I was always focused on the listing side. The other answer to that question is going to be the skill development. And I mean, anybody that's doing anything at a high level has a skill set that is really good. And it doesn't happen by accident. I mean, it can happen by accident. It'll just take a very long time, and that's not fun. So being coached and trained by great people, having mentors, having people that we practiced and role played. I mean, all of that was part of my world at the beginning. And I still do that today with my team, practice and role play. So I think that's the common denominator is a lot of contacts, a lot of practice, a lot of role play, and then focusing on that particular side of the business.
And I think that's rare for someone to come out of the gate, and have that listings focus from the start, because a lot of times the buyer can seem like the faster commission, right? So that could steer agents off track, and staying disciplined and having that singular listing focus is better for the long-term business growth. So I heard you say you role played a lot in the beginning. You had that singular focus. What other daily actions? How many contacts a day were you making in those early years to get the business off the ground?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So my first 3 years, because I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and they would always say, what's it take to be successful? How can I be a great listing agent? Yeah. And I told them what I did and said, will you do that? And they generally just walk away. And here's what and they shake their head, walk away. For my first 3 years, and this is consistent, documented, you can check it out, 60 contacts a day, 200 plus days a year for 3 straight years. And 90% of that, Rob, were cold calls.
Wow.
I worked with Greg Sisson at the time, and he was focused on the expireds. I did for sale by owners, and I'd call for sale by owners every day. Maybe there's 5 to 10 of those I talked to at the most. I had to get 60. So the rest was just banging out cold calls with two phones and a headset. One side went to one phone, one side went to the other. There was no mojo. So I had to, manually dial, and 60 contacts was the goal, and I hit it every day. I mean, I'm sure there were some days I had to do 80 to catch up, but that was the focus. So why I don't say that to brag or boast, but I will tell you, if in 3 years, when you talk to 60 people a day, you've pretty much heard everything. And real estate is a conversation. So it's all about repetition. And so I just had the good fortune of talking to, thousands and thousands of people in a compressed amount of time. And the conversation really hasn't changed in 25 years. I think I'm just very comfortable now talking to anyone at any time, at any place about real estate. And of course, particularly our market. And I think if you can master the conversation of real estate and it comes through practice, role play, and repetition, then you're pretty much unstoppable in my view.
I mean, first of all, that's awesome. There were so many great, I think, nuggets in there. One of them was, I think you said in the beginning, where, a lot of people want to have a real estate business that performs at a high level. And then when you tell them the actions that they need to take, they suddenly don't want to do it. So that's a great point. And what I was thinking about as you were telling me that was the beginning of our interview, when you said how blessed you were to have all this great center of influence and do these 420 transactions where everything was selling itself. But if you hear Greg talk about what he did in those early years, this is the tricky thing about our business. We can plant those seeds and we can water them, and we don't always know when they're going to grow. But if you keep planting them and you keep providing that great customer service, creating value for your prospects or your clients, they will grow, and they'll grow like weeds, and you don't always know when. So I love that you shared that 60 contacts. That's amazing, man. 3 years.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody does that anymore. I'm not sure if that's even possible. I mean, people would pick up it's possible. People would actually pick up the phone back then. There was mostly all landlines. So I know for the young guys, maybe that's probably not as realistic today, but whatever you're doing, you can do more. I
Yeah,
promise. You
that's
know?
fair. How
Yeah.
about, so 60 contacts a day, fair to say there was a lot of rejection during that process?
Of course,
Yeah,
we're in a rejection business. It's called sales. I mean, anybody that gets more yeses than nos is not making enough contacts.
right. So from a mindset perspective, in those early years, what do you think kept you fighting through all those no's to keep going?
Yeah. I mean, in the first 3 years, most of those were, like I said, cold calls and for sale by owners. So I
Yep.
wasn't calling expires those first few years, which I did a lot of those later. Um, but I mean, it was just a game, Robert, to answer your question. I mean, if you're cold calling neighborhoods, it's just sold calls is what it was. So the numbers say I'm going to get more no's than yeses. So I don't know. I mean, I had occasionally have somebody yell at you, but it's so rare. So I was so trained by my dad and knew that that's just the process. It really and truly never bothered me. I mean, I'm sure I had one call per 2 or 3 years of someone talking about me and my family that got under my skin for 5-10
Right.
minutes, but they don't know us. I'll never see them again. I'll never talk to them again. So why would I let them really bother me or offend me? So really that part wasn't the hard part for me.
Sounds like you really understood it was just part of the process and you were just doing your job, and that
Yeah,
was to make those contacts. Good.
yeah, that's true.
What personality style would you say you are?
Well, I always thought I was amiable, but my team now seems to think I'm a driver. So I hope I'm not getting more ornery in my old age. Um, but I think amiable, and then when things have to happen, I'm going to probably go into that as a secondary, probably a driver.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it's probably hard to run a team without having a little of that in you somewhere when things need to get done, right?
I think so. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. What about introvert or extrovert?
Oh, I'm definitely an extrovert. I mean, I've
Okay,
always loved talking to people, going up to people and talking to them. So I'm definitely an extrovert.
cool.
But we know introvert, we know about, and it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. You can be a great salespeople or both.
Could be
Right.
both, right?
I really believe that because we're an actor. It's so funny. We talked about this today on my huddle at 8:45. I start off, I got half of them on the Zoom and half of them with me, which is fine. We do that all the time. And I said, how's everybody doing? It's a Monday. I'm getting excited. Are you excited? Full of energy? And I said, I'm faking it today. I'm acting. How about you guys? And so I'm glad you brought that up because I mean, truly, there are days when we don't feel like doing it. And I try to be transparent with my team and tell them, but today was one of those days on a Monday. I was like, I'm just not feeling it, but I acted like I was. And then you fool yourself because that's just part of the process. We don't feel like doing it every day, you know? So that was today for me.
And what a great awareness too, because you have two options when you don't feel like it. You could fake it and go put yourself through the motions, or you could not go, right? And
Right. Yeah,
if you put yourself through the motions, good things are going to happen. You got and it helps cement that habit that you're trying to create as well. So
that's right. That's
thanks
right.
for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet.
So obviously it takes a team to sell 330, 400, these big years that you've had. Um, I know you shared early on that you've started to bring on the buyer agents. Was it hard to allow them to help as you started growing your team?
Not really for me at all to get them
Okay,
to help. That was not a hard part for me at all. I think personally, I enjoy delegating things. I
good,
delegate really quickly, but
good.
for them to help, I mean, it was just something as a business decision, having buyer's agents, there's money on the table if you run it properly and
Yep.
profitably. You got to be careful there. And that's a whole nother podcast. But
Sure.
no, we had we have a really good onboarding system, not as great in the beginning, but we're very confident with when we let our buyers agents take care of our clients and customers. We feel very good about that and enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that customer service piece is important. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's not just helpful for you, the listing agent, but it also helps the public, the consumer, have a better experience when they have someone who specializes in that. So I'm glad you shared that as well. Have you really been able to build each year on your business, or have you had some down years, some tough years throughout the 26 or so years?
I mean, it's been pretty consistent. I would say in 2007, 8, 9, I was able to maintain units. I mean, if you were around that time, it was the hardest, most difficult time in real estate with the subprime market and all the foreclosure short sales. My income went down, but I was able to maintain my units because the sale price went down so much. We lost some of our condo market got decimated, 50 to 70% less in price, and some of the oceanfront stuff. But no, I've actually had a very up and to the right kind of career.
Cool.
And then, like most people, if you really look at 21, everything units came down a little bit from 21 because it was so outrageous. But no, it's been an up to the right kind of trajectory for us.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Thankful for that.
So do you have to, in your opinion, because you have a lot of experience here, both solo agent team, in the business a long time. In your opinion, do you have to work 24/7 to be successful in the business? Or is it possible to have a profitable business, offer good service, and still have time for your family, hobbies, and life outside of real estate?
I mean, it's a great question, and it's a good setup because my answer is going to be the second one. It's very possible. In fact, I think 24/7, I know is not a literal number, but I mean, someone that's working all the time, I mean, we're always out of balance at some level. I mean, we never have perfect balance, but it's not sustainable. And as a Christian, like, it's just not even God honoring. I mean, you can't serve your family and your community. You can't be an asset to the community if you're singularly focused, working all of the time. You're not going to be healthy. It's not sustainable.
Right.
Do buyers take a little more time? Yes. Working in a team environment, we have taken the transaction coordination, Rob, away from our buyer's agents. So all they have to do is take the lead from, inbound call, or when I hand them a lead, or they get a lead, or it's their past client center of influence, sell them a property, write the contract, negotiate the contract, turn it in, and then let the closing department take it all the way to closing. So we believe we've created an environment, to your question, I'm so glad you brought it up, where I don't want my agents to work more than, I can't get them to work 5. I try. I've got a couple agents that'll work 5, but they're going to work 6 days a week. You got to take one day off. You got to have a Sabbath rest. It's just like, think about an endurance athlete. I was a long distance runner. I did some triathlons. I mean, the rest day, if you're doing 70 miles in a week, training for a marathon, the day that you run 20 miles is important, but the day you rest is equally important for your body to be optimum. It really is. So it's the same in production. In anything, I think you've got to have that rest period to let your mind get right and get focused again, like your body does on a distance run or on a training.
Yeah, really good point. And I think it's so rare in the business to have that mindset. It's almost the norm for agents to say they work 24/7 and to just almost take pride in that. And I think, not to get off topic, but to your point, even something as simple as sleep, like, there's so many studies now that show how important sleep is, to your point of rest. Like, that's when a lot of this growth happens. It's not, I think the days of taking pride in working 20-hour days and sleeping 4 hours, I think there's a lot of data to show that that's not what's best for us. It's not what's going to keep us sharp for ourselves or our clients. So anything you do that helps you with that, because there's a lot of pulls in this industry. There's always someone trying to grab our attention. Anything that's helped you over the years.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm fortunate because I'm very leveraged at this stage of my career. We have a lot of staff and people that I can delegate stuff to. I mean, email, like, for instance, I mean, I'm not checking my email. I don't say I don't check it in the morning. That'd be a lie. But my assistant is always on my email, on her screen, going back and forth. She's cleaning it up. If there's anybody in your world, if you've got an assistant or a part-time, I think that's one thing that you could help yourself for efficiency, is let somebody do that. to take some things off your plate. My morning routine is critical for me. I am an early riser. I don't say that as a badge of honor, but I operate so well in the morning, and I get so much return personally and return on investment of time for my morning routine, where I'm reading my Bible, I'm having that quiet time. Nobody's awake in the house. Then I go out on a walk. I don't run anymore. I don't run much. My body doesn't like that. I've got probably a 2-hour designated period of things I'm listening to, things I'm reading, my walk, and then I come back. And so I think that's my greatest, like, that's where my joy comes, in that morning time. And then when I go to the office and come in and meet the staff and the team, I'm ready, and versus just waking up and rushing out and going. So I think the morning routine is probably forever. And everybody talks about morning routine. You can read 100 different books on it, but just write it out. Write out what you want it to look like, and just start with it. I tweak mine all the time.
It's such a good point. It allows you to be intentional in that morning time, and it's quiet. There's no you can get more done in an hour in the morning than you can 3 hours midday, right? Because that quiet and that intention is powerful. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, as we wrap up, what advice would you give to people who are watching, who are stuck in a plateau? It could be business, but it could be something else in their life, health, family, whatever. You just feel a little stuck. Could be someone new, could be a veteran. What advice would you give for someone who's plateauing a little bit?
Yeah. And first and foremost, if that's you, it's called normal. It happens to me, happens to Robert, happens to everybody at some level. I think the biggest thing is, and you even said it, writing out. I always tell my daughter, I say, when does the next day start? And she'll immediately reply, oh, it starts the night before. So the next day starts the night before. So the little things of just writing out for 20 minutes, what do you want to accomplish tomorrow? Just start with one day. If you're in a rut or a plateau, I want to just focus on the next day, the night before. And really, I would say focus on the morning. Don't even think about the afternoon. Focus on, if you're watching this, you're a producer, you're in sales, you're in real estate, think about your morning routine from wake up until lunch. And if you get that right, the rest of it will take care of itself. I'd say secondly, get connected with somebody that's like-minded. We've talked about that, or someone that you look up to in the community. Take them to lunch. And I want to encourage you right here. I mean, I think the next 2 months, as we record this October 30th, the next 2 months of the year, and then into all of 24, as we're in this softening market, rates are up. There's going to be a lot of agents that they give up actually, or they give up mentally, and it's just really the same thing. And I hate that. But if that doesn't have to be you, and there's more market share to take over right now, because transactions are down, but I mean, in our market, they're only down about 7%. I don't know about yours, but I believe the rate of people leaving will be greater than the units that are going down. So just focus on your morning and focus on finding some support, whether that's, Rob's community or someone that you're working with in your market. That'd be my encouragement to you.
Oh, I love that. I love what you said about, when markets change and some people start to leave the business, even the fourth quarter, right? A lot of agents tend to slow down, and it really just creates opportunity. Like you said, you hate to see people leave, but it also creates opportunity for the people that are going to keep going, and a lot of opportunity. So Greg, you provided so much value to our community today. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing. What's the best way for people to connect with you if they have questions about that Myrtle Beach market down there in South Carolina?
Well, there's two ways. You could email me, greg@gregsisson.com, or you can go to my website, gregsisson.com, and you can click on schedule a call. If you've got, want to buy or sell real estate in the Grand Strand area, Myrtle Beach, or just have a real estate question, you can schedule a call with me on the website.
Awesome. Love it, man. Well, we are out of time for today. If anyone listening wants more information, you can send me a DM or shoot me an email. Our team is always looking to collaborate and happy to answer questions. Thanks again, Greg. Thanks for being here.
Great being here, Rob. Thanks.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.